After listening to Secretary Raimondo and John Huntsman speaking there, I'd just like to say my name is Adia Depitan and I'm the new governor of Washington, D.C. Come on, I'm joining the club. Yeah, okay. I just want to join the club. But no, what an illuminating story there from Secretary Raimondo. My older sister has Down syndrome, so I kind of understand, you know, how important that kind of aid and that kind of support is for our families to help us feel like we are included in the system. So thank you once again for such an illuminating session. I'd now like to invite our moderator for this next panel, and it's our final panel, to the stage. So please give a warm welcome to Michael Schlein. Thank you.
Thank you. We are in the final stretch. This is the last panel before the wrap-up. And it's appropriate because we're also dealing with one of the toughest issues. It's the last panel, and we're focused on the last mile. Shamita started us off this morning, and we talked about how different the world was 10 years ago when the Center for Inclusive Growth was started. Back then, we talked about 3 billion people being left out and poorly served by the global financial system. Today, we talk about 2 billion. So there's been enormous progress, but the next billion is going to be much harder than the last billion, and specifically because they're rural populations. When we think about poverty in rural areas, we think it used to be that distances were insurmountable. Today, there's no such thing. It used to be that the transaction sizes were too small to be commercially viable. Today, there's no such thing. It used to be that with distances, it was hard to know our clients, but today with data and data analytics, we can know someone remotely. So the whole world has just changed in the last 10 years, which means it's a very exciting time, but also a very challenging time to tackle some of the big issues to reach that next billion in rural populations. 2/3 of them are smallholder farmers, and they have a whole set of issues. And so I'm very excited. I have 2 experts up here. Chetna Sinha has now been doing this for over 30 years, and she understood that it was hard to get rural women to come to banks. So she brought the bank to them. She created the first rural women's bank in India, the Mann Deshi Bank, and later the first business school for rural women in India. And now, last night, you were telling me you're creating the Chamber of Commerce for rural women. She's quite the entrepreneur. She's had an enormous impact. Welcome, Chetna. Please tell us what you've seen over those 30 years and how things have changed as you try to tackle these issues in rural populations.
Sure. So actually, I'm very much delighted to be here. But as in morning Shamina mentioned, about 10 years ago, what was the situation in South Africa. And when I'm talking about these rural women, I would like to again take you back to more than 2.5 decades. How did they dream of bank? You know, these women were stone breakers who don't even earn $1 a day. And they wanted to do savings. And they said that, you know, they came to me and they said, we want to do savings. And I was like, okay, but do you enough have money to save? They were insistent that we are doing business on the street, we are working in the fields, but we want to do savings. We are not asking for loan. We are not asking for any government grants. And I thought that is their right. And so we thought, why not set up a bank for women like these who are Kantabai, Kirabai, Parvati? And so we thought, let us apply for the banking license. These women, no education, no exposure. Went to the Central Bank of India. You know what? Their names were there, their businesses were there, their signatures were not there. They had a thumb impression because they were not educated. On that ground, the central bank denied the license, saying that we cannot issue a license to the promoting members, to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. I was nervous. I came back crying. I was weeping, and I told women that we couldn't get the license. You know what they said? They said, we didn't get the license because we cannot read and write. Why are you crying? We will learn to read and write from today. And that literacy classes started. After 5 months, we applied again. I wasn't sure that what will happen, but these women were very confident, And they said, they challenged the director of Central Bank of India and said, let's play a game. You said we cannot read and write. They said we cannot read and write, but we can count. Yeah? And they said that ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license. But tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate faster.
Thank you. And
Needless to say that we got the banking license, but I'll just say that now these women are going on blockchain. How? I'll tell you later.
there you go. Okay, that's a segue to Manu. Manu, you're working to ensure that the AI revolution includes rural and vulnerable communities. Your nonprofit, Carrier, pays rural and low-income employees 20 times the minimum wage to train AI systems. This is so important. These models, these large language models, are only as good as the data you put them in. And if you ignore rural populations, that's the output you'll get. Tell us what led you to do this and how is it working?
No, absolutely. It's such an honor to be here. Just such an honor to share stage with Chetna ma'am, whose work I've looked up to for so long. I think we're very blessed, both in India and in the world, to be, we are where we are. I mean, we work with, India has 230 million poor people. Most of them now have access to bank accounts thanks to the work that you have done. So the work that we are starting to do wouldn't even be possible without yours. That's number one. But AI today is an unjust labor market, right? When we think about AI, we all think of this fancy technology that just works, right? Nothing just works, right? There are 5 million plus data workers who are employed today to build these AI data sets. Most of them are not paid what they deserve, right? And most of the contexts are, of course, from the global north. Yesterday, Felicia from Partnership on AI said something very simple, which is, if we want to build inclusive AI, we need to include people who we want the AI to work for, right? We want AI to work for rural women. We have to employ them. We believe very strongly that rural women in India are excellent builders of AI. And if that is the case, which we have proven it is, they work for Google and Microsoft and complete high-paying, complex digital data tasks for them. They should get paid what everyone else gets paid, right? Absolutely. And they're also excellent beneficiaries of AI. So we got to use AI to serve them in every way possible. And for us, AI represents a 100x opportunity. And it is really, really critical that we do not leave rural women behind. And, I think, thankfully, it's just the people you work with are such a force of nature, right? They will not be left behind, right? They will make sure that they just create magic with this.
Take one step back. Why did you think they would be left behind?
Well, unfortunately, market systems have a way of failing, right? The existing labor wages are a failure of the market. There are 14 data companies in the world that do more than $500 million in revenue each. Despite that, the wages are as low as 30 cents an hour, right? I was talking to someone earlier and they were like, well, that's probably why they make that much money, because the wages are 30 cents an hour, right? So labor wages today are a failure of the market, and thus we need to make sure, one, that's not happening. So at Karya, we create worker-owned data sets. So workers get lifelong royalties from future sales of their data, which is very important, right? And two, we want to use these data sets to build technologies for these women, right? So that's such a fundamentally important thing. And I think that if we do not all come together, we will risk repeating the mistake of the internet, which is, today, 30 years since the internet was created, you still have 2.9 billion people that have intermittent access to it. Imagine 30 years from now, in another Global Inclusive Growth Summit, we're just sitting here discussing, AI changed your life and my life, but we have these 2.9 billion people who have no access to AI. And that would be deeply disappointing. I do not think that will happen. I'm an extremely optimistic person. But for that to not happen, it has to be very intentional.
So the two of you are both focused on rural populations. You're both based in India. You really started at the non-technical, all-touch, and you're moving and embracing technology, and you're really starting at the complete other end. So I want to put that together and say, how are you introducing technology in your model? And then maybe are there areas where you have to bring it back and sort of deal with real people and insert some touch? So you first.
So first thing I would like to say that we are on the supply side, you say about using the technology. In case of Deshi or in our women, with our women, it was very different that how technology was introduced. I would like to share an example of one woman. Her name was Parvati. She was saving every day. We had provided a box to her. At that time, there was no digital wallet or nothing. So she was saving in the box, and Mandeshi said that we will transfer your amount into your account once the box is full, considering that her wages are very low. So one day, after providing the box, we had a very colorful red box with Mickey Mouse on it and distributed to nearly more than 10,000 women. But Parvati comes after 10 days with a broken box. And then she said, whose stupid idea is this? And I said, mine. And she said that don't mess with our lives. If you don't know the solutions, don't do that. And I said, what was the problem? And she said that before your bank representative comes, my husband took away the box, broke it, and took away the money, right? So the lessons learned was that anything you design, listen to them. And what did they say? You know, when we said, okay, what do we do then? We provided doorstep banking. How do we do? They said, we don't want passbook. We don't want this box. Design something which we can have it in our pocket. And we had a smart passbook in 2005. And at that time, there was no ATM, no cards in India. So what I'm trying to say is that these people, they have vision. It's a matter of us to listen to them and provide the solution. You know, I cannot see you, Shamina, but we like one thing very much, right? Never give poor solutions to poor people. And I have learned from that.
Thank you.
So today, not only they are using passbook, but they are using digital wallet. And what have they taught me? They have taught me it's not an access to finance. It's about control on finance. It's about controlling the assets. It's about controlling the knowledge. And that lessons I have learned from the women who have never been to the school, but they taught me, and I think supply side should always listen to them, then nobody will be left behind. Thank you.
Absolutely spot on. I think just incredible wisdom, right? Kintaro Toyama, who's a legend in the space of tech for good, teaches at University of Michigan, says that technology is an amplifier of human intent and capacity, not a substitute, right? So that is exactly that, right? So wherever we go, we take a look at what the intent is on the ground, right? What is the good intent? What is the bad intent? Because if there's bad intent, technology can make things a lot worse. So one has to be very, very careful, right? And I can give you 1,000 examples of that. And if the capacity exists, because if the capacity does not exist, technology is useless, right? And in fact, so many times philanthropy makes the mistake of investing in, very attractive-looking technical solutions that do not work because they do not actually solve people's needs, to your point, right? And I think it's very, very important that we understand what people actually want, right? And design for desire, not just for needs, right? Oftentimes we assume that just because someone comes from a low-income community, their desires are not as important to them as their needs. Absolutely not, right? Like, we are fundamentally aspirational people, right? And I think one of the things we do with our financial literacy program is ensuring that they're saving towards what they desire towards. And that could be a TV or watching a Shah Rukh Khan movie or whatever, right? Which is what you and I do. It's the same thing, right? So I think fundamentally knowing what tech is good at, right? And that's it, right? Like, technology is not the star here, it's the people, right? So at Karya, we work with 200 plus non-profit partners who find the community members for us on the ground, right? When we started our work, we went to a village. This is in Rajasthan. And I showed up in the middle of the day. And I said, here's an app. You can download this. You can just, get on the app and do the work. And we have 1,000 opportunities available. And by 2:30, all 1,000 opportunities were gone. And when we looked at the data set, they were all men who had signed up. And I'm not kidding when I tell you this, all of them had the same last name, the exact same last name, right? And what happens is, and of course in hindsight it's so obvious, right? Knowledge flows through the channels of power. And the kind of people who can check their phone at 2 p.m. in the middle of a workday are not the kind of people you would want to employ in a livelihood program, right? So we went back, we apologized, we went to the sarpanch, the head of the village, and we said, we want the following diversity requirements. We want to work with people who really need this work. And she was like, yeah, that is not how you do it, right? Till this date, we are now about to have 100,000 workers on a platform. It is not open to all, We only onboard workers from nonprofits on the ground who tell us who needs the work, right, in that community, because that's very, very important.
You have 100,000 people on the platform who are all helping you train large language.
We will. So in the next 2 months, yeah.
That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. What will that be used for? How will you use it?
So most of the work actually is used to build AI services in Indian languages, because that is really important, right? It is absurd to me that in 2024, the information that you can access is still limited by your language. Just because 3 of us speak English, we have access to so much more information than people in our communities. And that's deeply unfair, right? Information asymmetry is, again, a man-made problem. And it's a solvable one. We just need to allocate funds to it. Why should someone who speaks Marathi or Tamil or Telugu or any other languages across the global south suffer because of that?
So it's not hard to imagine smallholder farmer, rural India, leveraging generative AI to get agronomic advice, to get weather advice. Put it all together. To get local weather advice, crop-specific advice, government subsidy advice, and in a local dialect. Is that happening? Is that about to happen?
That's already happening. I can give you like 10 examples of tools that exist. Jugalbandi, Government of India's Bhashani program. We do something on tuberculosis education. That's already happening, and I think it's just so exciting that tools exist. But again, let's not get overexcited. It can be Gen AI, it can be in your dialect, but unless you have people like Chetna ma'am who understand how things work and things scale, these technologies will do nothing. Right? Because fundamentally, it will only reach the people you want to reach with the help of local nonprofits on the ground.
I was so engrossed in the conversation, the clock is over. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. Thank you both. Thank you.